More effective than Wolfman, Count.
Indeed.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 villain weaknesses in horror movies. For this list, we'll be looking at the most distinct and iconic weaknesses of well-known horror movie villains. Which of these weaknesses do you find most fascinating? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20, Silver, the Wolfman.
There's one. Make a good putter.
Yes, it would.
In this iconic horror film, we are introduced to the soon-to-be werewolf Larry Talbot, a Welsh man who visits a local antique shop and purchases a silver cane.
Well, that's a very rare piece. It shows the wolf and the pentagram, the sign of the werewolf.
Werewolf? What's that?
Later that night, he's attacked and bitten by a wolf, infecting him. By the end, he's stopped by his father, who strikes him down with the silver-tipped instrument. Why is this? Well, in the world of alchemy, silver is closely associated with the moon, and we all know werewolves avoid the moon like the plague. So whether it's a cane you've got, or ideally silver bullets, it seems to be the only way to put one of these creatures to rest.
I'm not sure. Doesn't silver have something to do with vampires? That's werewolves.
Number 19, Long Distances. It Follows. This 2014 movie is certainly one of the more creative scarefests out there, with its main antagonist taking the form of a strange curse that is passed on through intercourse.
It's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
Throughout the movie, people try to get rid of said curse by sleeping with others, only for that person to be bumped off and the curse to come straight back to the sender.
If it kills her, it gets me. It goes straight down the line to whoever started it.
So, how do you escape it? Well, we know the monster-like creature that comes after you has a physical form, and we know that it only ever travels at a walking pace, so why not stay on the move and travel between countries or even continents? Think about it, a permanent vacation of survival. Number 18, Water. Signs. A horror movie hinged on tension as opposed to jump scares, Signs is a classic case of it's what you don't see that creeps you out. Feeding us sightings of the aliens in dribs and drabs throughout the movie, the characters are stricken with confusion and fear when they finally come face to face with one. How do they defend themselves? Well, turns out that these aliens are vulnerable to water. Yep, plain old H2O. In fact, even a glass of it is enough to burn them. You could question why such creatures would invade a planet filled with the stuff, but let's just skip that for now, and cross our fingers for rain.
What's the matter?
There's a monster outside my room. Can I have a glass of water?
Number 17, Lack of Belief. Candyman. This legendary slasher movie shows us just how dangerous fear can be.
An entire community starts attributing the daily horrors of their lives to a mythical figure.
The Candyman is an urban legend who apparently comes and hunts you down with a hook for a hand if you say his name 5 times in a mirror.
He looked in the mirror and he said,
Candyman. Candyman.
So, how do you stop him? Well, not saying his name in a mirror is a good start, but he could still come after you if summoned by somebody else. The Candyman's Achilles heel, though, is belief, or lack thereof. His existence is fueled by people's fear and knowledge of him.
Candy milk, give me. Candyman isn't real. He's just a story. You know, like Dracula or Frankenstein.
Sure, burning him works too, but if you just avoid talking about him and fearing him, the guy's got nothing. Probably doesn't help that we've just written an entire entry on him. Yikes.
This is the scariest story I've ever heard, and it's totally true.
Number 16, Any Kind of Light. Lights Out. As horror movie premises go, this is probably as basic as it gets, but that doesn't make it any less terrifying. Diana is a clawed creature that lurks in the shadows and attacks you once the lights go out, with her backstory revealing a sensitivity to light.
The patient suffers from a unique skin disorder that manifests itself in an extreme sensitivity to light. Patient's stay here has been very problematic.
And we're talking any kind of light, from sunlight to the glow of a cell phone screen. But not black lights. Avoid those. They don't work. As we see throughout the movie, keeping the lights on can be quite difficult when the thing that's hunting you keeps turning them off. So, our advice is, if Diana comes knocking, carry a torch and a disco ball, and you should be okay.
Okay, first priority, we put in some safeguards.
Number 15, avoiding screens and making copies. The Ring. Okay, so let's say you were silly enough to watch Samara's dreaded videotape, and that she's coming to hunt you down in 7 days.
Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it?
Facing her probably isn't such a good idea, but you can avoid the curse if you make a copy of the tape and show it to someone else.
You taking the tape?
I don't want her to see it.
Whoa, you don't want her to see it? What about me seeing it?
They will simply inherit your bad luck, unfortunately for them. There's always the option of avoiding screens and, wells, though. Samara comes after you typically through a TV screen after crawling out of a well, so when the time comes, avoid those things and you might be okay. Number 14, thirst, steaks, garlic, and crucifixes. Various. It's pretty obvious that with this entry we are talking about vampires, although some of these methods would have proven useful against a bunch of other monsters and ghouls. Just ask Will Smith. By far the most famous vampire stories are that of Count Dracula, with movies like Bram Stoker's Dracula and various Hammer horror classics.
You're strong in the Lord! In the power of his might! You're strong in the Lord!
One thing's for sure, vampires are to be feared, but they also have a wide variety of weaknesses. These include a thirst for blood, a wooden stake to the heart, garlic, crucifixes, holy water, and sunlight. And they can even be trapped in their coffins if you place a wild rose on top of it.
Garlic don't work, boys! I only want her dead breath!
Number 13, holy water and exorcism. The Exorcist. Another religion-infused entry next, revolving around an evil, mischievous demon called Pazuzu, who possesses a 12-year-old girl. Like many possession movies we've seen, The Exorcist shows us that a demon acts through a host, and the best way to rid the host of said demon is through exorcism.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Throughout The Exorcist, we can see that holy water harms the demon, which is a start. But holy water also harms the host.
Be silent!
A more effective defense is banishment. With a properly executed exorcism, the demon can be removed from a host and the host's soul can be saved. Just make sure you're not around for the demon to jump ship and take over your body.
Take me! Come into me! God damn you! Take me!
Number 12, avoiding Myers. Halloween franchise. It's strange how someone in a Captain Kirk mask, walking really slowly, is utterly terrifying. And no, we're not going to say running is Michael Myers' weakness, although it kind of is. But there's an easier way to avoid the unrelenting white-masked psycho. Just stay away from his family, and his hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. You can either ignore it, or you can help me to stop it.
Or at least when it's Halloween, because he only seems to come out then. Michael has an uncontrollable desire to end the lives of his entire family.
That girl, that Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister. She was born 2 years before he was committed. 2 years after, his parents died and she was adopted by the Strodes.
So if you know a family member of his, then make sure you stay away from them. And that includes any houses they may have previously lived in.
Does anybody live here?
No, not since 1963 when it happened. Every kid in Haddonfield thinks this place is haunted.
They may be right.
Number 11, aiming for the head. Night of the Living Dead. Considered by many to be the mother of all zombie movies, George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead gave us many of the zombie tropes we still love and fear today.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
The slow, clumsy walk, the farmhouse setting, and of course, the #1 zombie weakness, headshots. This movie laid the foundations for zombie defense, and apparently the best way to stop an undead creature in the 60s, and today in fact, is by destroying its brain, or taking off its head entirely.
Officials are quoted as explaining that since the brain of a ghoul has been activated by the radiation, the plan is kill the brain and you kill the ghoul.
So a gunshot to the head or a heavy swing of a machete should do it, or you could always just try to blend in.
Right, let's all try it together, shall we? 1, 2, 3.
Number 10, Valks Own Name, the Conjuring franchise.
You are Valak! The defiler! The profane! The Marquis of Snakes!
Valak has worn a number of guises over the years, appearing as an evil nun, as well as the unsettling Crooked Man. However, while the demon's supernatural abilities are formidable, including demonic possession and telekinesis, it can be harmed by holy substances, such as the blood of Christ.
Valak. The defiler. The profane. The Marquis of Snakes.
This doesn't seem to harm it permanently though, and there aren't always holy substances ready to hand. Fortunately, as Lorraine Warren eventually realised, Valak's own name can be turned against it.
Your name gives me dominion over you, demon. And I do know your name.
This, combined with an incantation, is capable of banishing Valak back to hell.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, I condemn you back to hell!
Number 9, Dehydration and their Queen, the Faculty.
Has the entire faculty been commuted? Almost. What about the students? Soon.
The antagonists of this film are largely composed of aliens masquerading as the faculty at a high school. Originating from an aquatic world, the creatures depend on water to survive, and not hydrating frequently weakens them. In addition, diuretic drugs, which increase the rate at which water leaves the body, are lethal to them. However, while these can harm them individually, as a collective group, the aliens depend on a telepathic connection to their queen.
We kill the queen. We can get them all back.
So her death results in the death of all of them, making her their principal vulnerability. Number 8, Acceptance, the Babadook.
My husband died the day that Sam was born.
He got killed driving Mum to the hospital to have me.
This sinister creature that manifests from a pop-up book hounds a grieving widow and her son throughout this film. Their attempts to rid themselves of the fiend mirror the stages of grief. Denying its existence doesn't work, nor does getting angry with it, running from it, or bargaining with it.
You're not even good enough to have a dad. Everyone else has one, you don't. I do have a dad!
The only way to defeat the Babadook is by accepting both it and the loss of their loved one. While the Babadook, like grief, never goes away completely, it can be lived with and managed during everyday life.
How was it?
It's pretty quiet today.
Number 7, High Frequency Sounds, A Quiet Place. These extraterrestrials hunt down humans using their extremely sensitive hearing. They're so good at it that only a handful of survivors seem to be left. Their skin is heavily armoured, making them especially difficult to kill. However, their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. As Reagan Abbott discovers thanks to her cochlear implants, their hearing is so sensitive that high-frequency sounds leave them writhing in pain and barely able to move. It also causes the armor plating on their heads to protrude, exposing vulnerable flesh beneath. Number 6, Infrared Vision, Predator franchise. The Predators are a race of alien hunters whose equipment and skills in combat make them formidable foes. However, their code of honor provides rules of engagement that limit who they're allowed to hunt.
Came in to get the body. He's killing us one at a time.
Like a hunter.
Their prey must be considered worthy game, healthy, and in their prime. This could conceivably lead to costly mistakes, but their biggest weakness is the fact that they see mostly in infrared. While this can be a boon in many situations, such as when tracking warm-blooded prey, attempts to mask body heat, such as with mud, can make it difficult for them to locate their targets.
He couldn't see me.
Number 5, Chucky's heart and human characteristics. Child's Play franchise.
Give me the power, I beg of you! S'accusati e me podemor. Mortis me lo devacordem roche.
A doll animated by the soul of a serial killer, Chucky may look like he'd be immune to normal human weakness, and he has proven his ability to come back again and again using voodoo. However, he does have some pretty glaring weaknesses, on top of the fact that he's probably not a great runner. The longer he inhabits the doll, the more that doll starts to take on human characteristics, meaning that he can be wounded like a regular person.
The more time you spend in that body, the more human you become.
His other downfall is his heart, not because he's secretly a softie, but because a bullet there can kill him.
The heart! Shoot him in the heart!
Number 4, Incineration. The Thing. This thing from another world is a grotesque monstrosity that can impersonate other beings after consuming and assimilating them.
Heart, lungs, kidneys, liver.
It makes for a skilled infiltrator, and it's difficult to kill, since it's made up of independent cells. However, fortunately for the human race, it isn't completely invulnerable. It can be detected by applying extreme heat to a blood sample, since the blood cells react as autonomous organisms. It can be burnt or blown up using explosives. The thing may also be vulnerable to electrocution, judging by its reaction to a defibrillator. Number 3, Courage. It.
That's it! Let go! Be afraid! Remove the stones! You all taste so much better when you're afraid!
An ancient, nameless entity who feeds on the fear of its victims, it is a monstrously powerful being. Every 27 years, it awakens to torment the hapless children of Derry. Even so, it still has some susceptibilities. First, it needs to hibernate for long periods of time. Second, although it can take on various forms, it also takes on some of their physical limitations. But what it really can't stand is courage. Since it feeds on fear, the absence of fear leaves it weak and starving.
Yes, I'll feast on your flesh as I feed on your fear.
When confronted with courage, especially by a group, it falls apart.
Welcome to the Losers Club, asshole!
Number 2, Pamela Voorhees and Crystal Lake. Friday the 13th franchise.
Jason should have been watched every minute. He wasn't a very good swimmer.
The scourge of Crystal Lake and camping teens, Jason Voorhees is an undead killer whose implacable pursuit of his victims is legendary. However, the hockey-masked murderer is not without vulnerabilities.
Now, this Jason Voorhees supposedly drowned at Camp Crystal Lake back in 1957 when he was 11 years old.
He generally seems to ignore those who don't visit his stomping grounds, and has shown mercy towards children. He can be manipulated by those disguised as his mother, Pamela, and he's taken serious injuries from traditional weapons such as machetes and axes. Oh, and boat propellers. He can also be re-imprisoned beneath the waters of Crystal Lake. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The real world, holy objects, fire, being forgotten, and his own reflection. A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep. So scary.
For being a powerful and sadistic dream demon, Freddy Krueger actually has an awful lot of weaknesses. Going without sleep is one way to avoid him, although that obviously can't last forever.
Nancy? What, Mother? Don't fall asleep in there. You could drown, you know.
Oh, for Pete's sakes.
He can be brought out into the real world, however, which puts him at a significant disadvantage. He can also be subdued by showing him his own reflection while reciting the famous nursery line. Additionally, he has a vulnerability to holy objects and a fear of fire, due to how he originally died. Lastly, the killer's influence is limited to Springwood, and he can't manifest there if no one remembers or is frightened of him anymore.
Make them remember me, Jason. Make them remember what fear tastes like!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.